And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey Wednesday Encounters. I'm your host, Carrie. With me, as always, in the producer's chair, Miss Daniela. How are you, dear?
Doing good, thank you.
Good to see you.
And you?
It's snowing here,
Hmm.
and it's going to snow all night, so I'll be out working in the snow tomorrow. Fun. I think we got a pretty good show planned for everyone. Before we get started, remind everyone to keep it clean for us in the chat. We appreciate that. Y'all be nice to each other. No bickering back and forth. We do have the best moderators on YouTube. That is not just my opinion. That is a full testable fact. Test me on it. Ask me. I'll tell you. we've got we've got Sean here with us tonight, and he's had some experiences, but we're going to kind of run through several different things. I think first, let's just kind of get Sean. Just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and much as you want to give away, anyway.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to get to come talk to yourselves and
you.
everybody here, and I hope everybody, takes a little something from this. I've lived a lifetime hunting and fishing, and a lot of hunting, and I grew up in Florida. I hunted the Green Swamp Management Area for five consecutive years, and didn't kill a lot up there, but I learned a lot about hunting. I had a brother that lived in
time. Killed a lot of time.
Yeah, and I started, and then I went to Ocala National Forest, and that's when I kind of got my eyes open to what could be out there. And as a young kid, and my father was a very stern guy. He until you got him into the woods and fishing, and then he was the funniest guy you ever met. But he was still a serious individual altogether. And he taught me some things about gun safety and animal processing animals, and your intentions, and don't be shooting anything you don't plan on eating, and you can't justify, if you will. And I've had 4 bear encounters. One of them, all of them are very passive except for the last one, and he didn't come charging at me. He was letting me know that he was pissed off because I walked up behind him. That's for sure. But he was just kind of in our way because we had to get back to the truck. So we were just in an area where a lot of people don't go. And but all in all, I've done a lot of hiking in Green Swamp Management Area and Ocala, both down into the Everglades. And I got a pretty good set of miles on my feet on that. And I did a lot of hiking by myself, so didn't have a lot of distractions and a lot of noise, because if anybody lives in Florida, knows anything about Florida, it's always hot here until a month or so out of the whole year, and it's just not for everybody to be out there to 110 degrees with no breeze in the middle of the swamp.
99% humidity.
Yeah, exactly. So I've done a lot of that by myself. So, and I don't just got to where I started taking cameras in there with me, and I don't take a lot of cameras. As a matter of fact, I have a camera that I usually work with, and I started listening to some folks, and there's like the old saying, the whole, if you want to see animals and game animals, take a camera instead of a gun. And you'd be amazed what you can see, and that's a very fair assessment. However, I really believe these Sasquatch, if you will, they know when the camera's on. They can smell the petroleum and the plastics in your game cameras.
Do you think that's what it is?
I
think they smell them.
Yeah, there's the petroleum and the plastics are because it's not natural. And it's not part of nature, and I believe it. I mean, I can't say it absolutely puts out a some kind of noise or
Well,
whatever.
it's,
But
it's good. As good as opinion and theory as any. It makes sense.
Sure.
Even.
Sure. And that's why I think they mess with them. They mess with them or it fails. I can't tell you how many stories and videos I've watched, and the guy's like, man, I got all this camera, and all of a sudden I took it to the smartest guy in the whole, state, and he couldn't get the, because something failed on the card,
Yeah.
and
Happens a lot.
batteries draining, things like that. That's a very popular situation that's happened to guys that carries cameras and things like that in the woods. I can't explain a lot of all that, but it's quite interesting though. And I guess I'll just get right into my last encounter was November the 30th of 2021. I went out, me and my dog went out to campground down here in off 471 up here. And when I got there was only 2 vehicles there. And when I got in the gate and I drove down to the campground, and there was a guy there with his kid. He was camping. He was picking up and leaving. And then that was probably about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I set up my camp and got my fire cooking a little bit and started walking around. I decided to drive up and see who was left at the gate a couple hours before dark or whatever. And there was 1 vehicle left, and it was just a hiker. And the Florida Trail runs through all back through there, so it's not. And it was on a Monday also, so that's not very crowded there anyway. So I went down there and checked that out. I went back to the camp, and I took a piece of firewood I had there, and I wrapped a tree and did about 3 times, and I threw the stick down and went on about my business. And started walking around a little bit. Had my dog there with me, and he listens very well to me anyway.
What was the idea behind hitting a tree?
Well, you heard the knocks and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way of communicating, and I don't know if I think in certain aspects it's a positive thing. Certain aspects it could be a warning. It could be, some type of communication that they have going on. That's not the first, it's like the first time I've done it. But I just, I take a little bit of a passive approach to them because I personally don't think that they are out to get us. I really don't. I do think there's a few out there that's been shot at, wounded, lost one of their girlfriends or kids because of, some Yahoo shooting at 200 yards or whatever, like an idiot. And then they wonder why they have bad experiences when they get back to the camp.
Right.
So
well, you had mentioned that, and you said, shooting one of these creatures from a long distance it's nefarious.
It's absolutely reckless. It's reckless, and it's very
shooting
high.
One period, but I mean from
shooting
a long
one
distance.
Period. Exactly. And it's one thing. It's one thing if you're in a cabin and they're breaking the door down and they're coming into the door. I could say, okay, I would take a shot at one. But if one just sitting out there 100, 200 yards and you're looking at it and you think you're going to get some kind of big game prize out of it, I got news for you. The Game Commission is not going to allow you to do any of that. And as soon as the Game Commission gets involved, you're going to be separated from that body, and they're going to give you some politically correct smile and answer and say, we'll get back with you. And you'll be on the phone for the next week trying to find something out, and you'll think, did we have a blackout?
No, I just want to show this. This is specific hunt regulations for Florida, and that where it's circled right there, it says there's no taking of swamp or skunk apes. That is in the hunting guidelines.
regulations.
anywhere you go in Florida. And it
Mhm.
might be, I haven't looked anywhere else, but now, you mentioning that, and all that means to me is you may shoot one, but you're not going to take it.
Right. Well, you're
They're
not going
gonna
to
take
get,
it from
you're
you.
not going to get the, I caught a world record bass and I get,
Right.
X amount of dollars or get all these, photo bombs and everything else with it. I think a lot of that stems from Ocala because when they videoed the Tarzan movie, a lot of the monkeys got loose and in Ocala National Forest. And there's as my dad said one time, there's never only one. So if you do shoot one, and if you only have 5 rounds like you're actually legally supposed to, maybe 5 in the gun and 5 in your pocket. Nobody should be carrying, hundreds of rounds in the woods. It's just silly. If you're actually legitimately hunting. And I'm pro-gun, folks, so don't lose the blood in your head. But there's more than one, and I believe they're a hybrid form of humans. And that goes not monkeys, but the Sasquatch. They have a culture. I got a lot of stuff written down here, but they have a culture just like we do. They have all the genitalia that we have, male and female. They're mammals. They produce, pretty much produce the same way we do. They have girlfriends, wives, and kids. They're no different than us, except they live in an environment where we can't. Not that we could never. However, the almighty technology has separated
not
us
anymore.
from nature. Yeah. So, and I think there's a lot of people that disagree with that. Somebody said something about that the other night. We've gotten so far away from nature, we can't even really see them, and that's why they're so good at they can hide in plain sight. And they can be 20 foot away from you, and not really all that much cover, and you'll never see them unless they want you to.
A deer is hard to see if it's not moving.
Exactly. So I got off on a rabbit trail on that, but I'll get back to the camp and the experience. When I went back, I started playing some Native American music and sitting there just relaxing, getting my dinner ready. Had my dog tied up. He was on about a 12-foot run. And it got, I don't know, probably about an hour or so before dark. And I got up, I walked toward the truck, and I looked back and I seen my dog. He's got his head all ducked, and he's just like bird dog in this bush. And I looked over there and I didn't see anything. I didn't smell anything. However, as soon as he got about 5 foot from this palmetto bush, this very low and loud guttural growl come out of the bushes. And when it did, I said, "Hey," I said, "I'm not going anywhere. So get over it." And and I called my dog back. I made him lay down, and I never had another problem the rest of the evening. I really believe they understand because everybody likes to, come out there and try to find them. They got hundreds of people looking for them and videoing them. They've evolved.
Look, I say it all the time, man. Linda knows, or I know when Linda's mad at me, she doesn't have to say a word. You just kind of know.
Yeah.
Person's disposition without having to hear anything. So I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
Exactly. It's all in body. It's all in body language. It's like I was telling you before about the defensive postures. If I'm coming up in your yard and I have a furrow brow going on, and you see me coming up in your yard, and you said, "Well, that guy's pretty mad. I might have to defend my property." Well, same thing. You're in their yard. as much as we would like to think that the woods are all ours, they ain't. We're just a passerby of this time, and I think we need to just try to understand more than I do trying to be big game hunters, or shooting at the bushes that moves in the dark just because it's 20 feet away from you and you're scared. That doesn't. You never can. That's just reckless. It's reckless, and it goes against all kinds of gun safety that people. I'm 47 years old. Anybody that's, as far as I'm concerned, anybody that's my age and younger, and even and older, that they know or pretty much know that from my generation, you target acquire and you see what you're shooting at.
Sure.
That was one thing my dad was very adamant. You don't pull the trigger on nothing until you know exactly what you're shooting at. And that there's a guy Sunday. The guy Sunday, he alluded to that. I mean, I highly doubt anybody's going to dress up in any kind of suit and try to entertain anything, because it's, especially in Florida, it's 100 degrees every day here. You put on a big old suit, walking around in the bushes with hardly any breeze outside, you're going to burn up.
You deserve to be shot.
Exactly. And
we need to get you out of the gene pool.
Exactly. And I just it's kind of like the old clown thing. That didn't last very long.
I was kidding about that, by the way.
Yeah.
No one ever deserves to be shot. Let me just make that clear.
I really believe that they understand us more, and they've evolved. It's been my experience. I'm an analyst. I've read a lot. I've listened to a lot. I have this thing about communication. People don't listen to understand. They listen to reply. And usually. I think that if you really want to understand this phenomenon here, and I call it a phenomenon, and if you really want to understand it, you're going to have to realize that you are not the apex predator. And I think they are the apex predator. I don't ever hear any brown bears and Sasquatch get in the fight. Now, I don't live up in that area. I realize that that's a whole nother environment. I do realize that there's always good and bad. I've been listening to a guy, he's a Lakota Indian. He's like, for the most part, all of them are very relaxed, they're very curious, they're very peaceful. But I think the ones that are violent and nasty, they've took some loss in their life sometimes. They've had somebody shoot at them at 200 yards or 100 yards just because they think they're big game hunting. I think they've had a loss. I mean, you shoot my kid, I'd be pissed too. You shoot my woman, I'd be mad too. You shoot at me, I'm going to be mad. I mean, it's just, I think we're so close. I think we're closer than we actually realize as far as being a hybrid human. I could go off on a little bit of a tangent upon experimentals and things like that, but I don't think that's the story for this line here.
Hey, whatever you want to talk about, man.
Well, I don't want to get off on something that sounds a little crazy, and I'll get off. I'll start rabbit trailing and trying to turn everything back, and I start losing people because I've got a lot of information rolled up in here. And I really want to stay focused and hit these little points I have about, my situations. I've been flanked. They smell down here. We have a lot of sulfur in the water, a lot of iron in the water. They smell like urine. They smell like feces. They smell like rotten meat. The environment down here is rough. You ask anybody that's been in any kind of jungle warfare, they'll tell you the environment is constantly trying to eat you. Just imagine in the mange. I heard a lot of them that don't have the hair on. The mange runs bad down here in Florida for dogs and different things. So you think you know, a Sasquatch, you see it, part of the hair is gone on his arm or whatever, and half a hair or whatever, and it's like a mange. But the environment here is really, really tough. Like I said, I hunted the Green Swamp when I was really young for 5 consecutive years, and I stayed wet at least 4 days a week. And you couldn't stay dry. As just the more you tried to stay dry, the wetter you got. So it's just best to stay wet if you're going to stay there. And then they've got islands. You know, we've had a lot of rain in the past 2 years here, so a lot of the islands are flooded out here because there's water in places out here that I haven't seen water in probably 7 or 8 years. There's ponds. There's ponds out here. There's places that I go when I want to get up before daylight and walk out there and get on this little. It's a little primitive campground, is what it is. It's basically a place where the swift mud, for lack of a better term, allots for primitive camping, and it overlooks a big palmetto flat, a lake, and through that there's a timberline out there, and the sun comes up, and I used to glass out there on the timberline and see deer and see a few bear here and there. Not many, and you don't see many bear here down in the swamp. They're here, but they're not like they are in Ocala. The Game Commission has been dumping bears off in Ocala National Forest now for I can honestly say at least 25 to 27 years. They're all nuisance. They get moved. They move them from one place to the other. They move them all over the place. And bears have a roaming. You know, they have an area where they roam. And the swamp is just not a really conducive place because it's really wet. And when the rain comes and it raises the water and gets all those islands out there, that all those nice big bucks that nobody ever kills, they're out there on those islands.
Smart
and
ones.
You can't get to them. Yeah, you can't get to them unless you're on a boat or you're willing to walk in the water with water moccasins. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I think that's one reason why they can stay concealed as they do, is because, you know, as far as they protect their burial grounds and everything. I'm a firm believer, going back to the culture they have, being a hybrid human. They bury their own. They put them in the ground and they go back. They return to the earth, just like Native American will tell you. You return back to the earth. They put structures on top of it, or big trees on top of their where their burial sites and things like that, rocks and other places and things like that way nobody can get to them, and then the animals don't dig them up. And I think that's one reason why we don't find a lot of any remains for them, because they have a bond just like we don't want nobody digging our family up. So, you know, we protect them, and we protect them the way we know how to do it, and they protect them the way they know how to do it. And they're just really good at it. That's all this, you know, they're just good at it. They've been doing it for, you know, I just found out about a book from Dave Pallades. It's basically a book of newspaper clippings going back to 1680 to 1923. You know, there's no doubt that they've been here. That's for sure. They have a really close bond with the Native American people. I believe if you want to understand them, I think you need to understand the Native American people that were in your area and start with that language. And that's a very tough language. Sometimes you can't go to Rosetta Stone and dig it up. You know, You got to go actually find somebody that speaks that language and get them to give you a few words. So, you know, hope you don't make one of them mad out here. But, you know, but like I said, I think if people were more of understanding that it's a culture, you know, it's no different than any other culture.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. It just because if it were, in my mind, just an animal out there, just an ape, then we'd be able to study it. We'd be able to get closer to it. You know, this things would probably be slave to their stomach more than anything.
Sure.
More less capable of bypassing their own natural drives the way humans do.
Mm-hmm.
And these things, you know, the ability to work things out and decide. So I think you're spot on with that. I mean, it's the only thing that makes any sense because they're there. They
Mhm.
exist, and we don't have really good evidence for. I mean, other than what they leave behind and the few pictures we can get here and there. They're
Mhm.
just too hard to get close to and study. And you know, you're talking about seeing one. It doesn't take a big, vast patch of woods, you
Mm-mm.
know, or a huge forest. You know,
No.
these things can sit there in a bush where you're not going. You're not going into the bush, not a human
Mhm.
being. You can go around it. They'll sit right there in it, comfortable, embedded in the environment, and watch you walk right by.
That's
In
right.
my-
Where you'll
in-
sit there and
in
squirm
my-
because bugs are crawling on you.
Going back to the house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got one more here. The kind of backing up, other than the numerous time that them flanking me, and I know that they're flanking me because you know every now and again you'll have that odor coming across and take 4 or 5 steps there and it's gone. And then you go another half a mile and it hits you in the face again. I was going out there hiking and I met a guy. He was a Bigfooter. He had a big parabolic mic and he had he gave me his business card and all this other good stuff. And he we got to talking. I said, "Well, did you hear?" He goes, "Oh, I've heard a few things." And he was telling me stories about when he goes camping out there and listen to the at nighttime and things like that. And so we sat there and talked for about 30 minutes. And I said, "Well, I've got to hit the trail. I've got to get some miles in today." So you walk down the main grade where I go in at, and you go down there about a quarter of a mile, and then you hit a fence line to your left, and that's a piece of private property. My dog was with me at the time, and if you walk down the fence line about 20 or so feet from the fence corner, you can see the guy has a feeder and a hide in there, if you will. I sat there, and the curiosity got the best of me, and I carry a hickory stick that I bought online, and because we don't have a lot of hickory wood here anymore. I went over there, and and at this particular time, I haven't really had any other than them flanking me on the trail, and I slapped a tree and sat there a minute, and if anybody's ever cut a tree and you start, you go to cut and you get almost to the, to where your notch is, making the tree go in the direction you want it. Sometimes if it's a really heavy tree and it's big, it'll pop. It'll make these snaps, and that's, it starts popping instead of it shearing off. It starts popping and breaking because of the weight transfer. Well, I was sitting there in the bushes and I was looking at that blind, and my dog, he was about 50, 60 feet in front of me just doing his thing. And all of a sudden I heard 3 pops. Now this was probably no more than 30 feet from me, and I could just barely see the blind because of all the palmettos in there. And all of a sudden there was 3 pops, and the tree or whatever it was, I didn't go in there and look, but it slammed on the ground, and I could actually feel the vibration of it underneath my feet. And I was like, well, okay, that just happened. And I had a pistol with me, and I carry a pistol because I've done a lot of hog hunting in my life. I've been chased by hog before. I've caught a lot of pigs. So, and I do know that pigs that are continuously caught, harassed, they get aggressive. So I do carry a pistol, but I don't brandish the pistol. I keep it covered up. I don't walk around like John Wayne. So, and I didn't draw my gun or anything like that. I just said Self, I said, that just happened. And I just kind of think, I said, well, maybe he was, following that guy around with a parabolic mic, and right then I set my mind into really more looking, because I used to go out there and track this panther, and about 2 to 3 months out of the year, this panther would make this big loop in there. And I was trying to get a GoPro camera mounted in there to where it wouldn't get stolen, and get a picture of this panther. And that's where the kind of the journey begun. And I come across a track that was 14 inches long and probably somewhere in the tune of 5.5, 6 inches wide, which is, that's 6 inches is from the outside of my thumb here. That's 6 inches.
Not a normal human sized foot.
No, I don't think it was. And what's the thing about that is it stepped across the road, and it was one track on the side of the road, and then all I found was a heel track on the other side. And then it went into some palmetto flats and into some brush and around this pond, excuse me. And I didn't go looking, because that's not what I was looking for. But I took a picture of it. I bring a tape measure with me, this little light tape measure, and I took a tape measure and I measured it. I took a shot of it, and I sent it to this guy in Georgia. And and he didn't get back with me. And and people that tell me, yo, contact me, we'll do this, and I'll say, I'll talk to you and all this other stuff. And I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, because I'm busy and I respect everybody's time. And I gave him a week. I actually gave him 2 weeks. And I'm like, you know what? And I finally emailed him back. I was like, I emailed you that 2 weeks ago, and you specifically say that you reply to these messages, blah, 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 blah. He's like, oh, well, I looked at it and that was a barefooted hiker. And I'm like, whatever, cuz. I said, what are you, mad because you didn't find it or something? I mean,
a barefoot hiker.
A barefooted hiker with a 14-inch foot, almost probably 6 inches wide. I was like, and I didn't have any casting or anything like that. So,
well, you got a picture,
I got a picture of it.
What is anybody going to do with a picture anyway? All you can really do is show it to them, and they're going to have their own opinion about it.
Sure.
It's and to me, stride, if you didn't see the thing, stride to me doesn't mean a whole lot, because running, you can have a longer stride, or trotting, or moving quickly, or maybe a leap, but still a foot that size.
Sure.
A 14-inch foot, that's the size 18 shoe.
Mm-hmm.
You can't find that in the store anywhere. 18 US anyway. I don't know what that is in the UK, a 75 or something. I don't know. UK has weird stuff over there. Those guys measure things weirdly.
It's interesting, but I'm a firm believer. If you want to, it's not hard to see one. I mean, you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours out there. You might not see it, but he'll come into your vicinity. They will come in your vicinity. I think a lot of us have adolescents.
Well, I think Florida particularly, and I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's because there is a lot less land there, and maybe there's just a lot of food there year round for them. There's probably several things you could point to about Florida in particular. But you talk about the smell. I've smelled that strong urine smell. It's not like anything. It's not a hog. It's not like any other animal. Heard them. Been paralleled in the woods before I ever knew a thing. I can remember being paralleled by what I thought was a buck, because it was a big body, and it was just right there through the thicket, 30, 40 feet. And I would take a few steps and it would walk with me. And I ended up actually hiding behind a was a fire lane cut, so it was a little hump. So I was hiding behind it, and I started hearing tapping, tap, tap, tap.
Mm-hmm.
So I tapped back, and in my mind, it's this buck, and he's hitting the, his rack is tapping on the. Oh, it was these things.
Mm-hmm.
They were following me,
Sure.
and they probably did it 100, 1,000 times over the years I was in there. But you talk about Ocala is just one of those places. You go to a sighting, reported sightings, Ocala's full of them.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lady on here a couple of weeks ago that's having experience around her house now. That's just they're just there. And Green Swamp is another place down around Lake Okeechobee. Pretty much anywhere you go. To me, in Florida, if you want to have an experience, just go out there and act like you're not looking for them, but pay attention. And I think they'll come at least look at you. I think if anybody wants to have an experience, take you some bacon, some sterno, whatever. Go out. You ain't got to eat the bacon. Just cook it. Just get that bacon aroma going through the woods, and just sit there and act like you're not paying attention to anything. And I think they'll come up and check you out. Sean froze up on us.
I think so, yeah.
Sean, if you can hear us, you're froze up.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, and we lost him. Back. Well, I think this will be a good opportunity for us to remind everyone that you can get your emergency food supply from My Patriot Supply. You can use our special website if you want to help us out and get it. It's in the description. It's preparewithbigfoot.com, and they put deals in there every month for us. So you can go check those out. It's relatively inexpensive. As far as, a month food supply, it's like $100 and something. It's not that much, but that's for one person. But it lasts up to 25 years, and we've cooked some of that stuff. It's pretty good.
You took it with you, didn't you? Did you take some with you on the expeditions?
We cooked some at home.
Mm-hmm.
We had a shutdown.
Yeah, we figured we just tried to sell a little bit of something while you were gone.
Oh, I was wondering, but no, it's not very hard at all to have to have a passive encounter here. As far as there's some, especially in Ocala, there's some things in Ocala that'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, kind of like they do out there in Alaska. There's some things roaming around out there that I've got a couple of acquaintances that live in Alaska, and they tell me quite a bit, actually. It's very interesting. I don't like I said, I was tracking that panther. I've seen there is something out there that has 3 hooves on it. Not say 3, probably the wrong choice of words, but it's kind of a 3-footed print, probably as big as a softball, maybe a little bigger. And it's very interesting. I've never actually seen it anymore, and I've looked for it for several years, going in and out of the bay head, so like over there. But
gators have 3 toes, but you can tell. But that ain't no especially gator. The bigger ones. You can definitely tell the difference. Well, look, I kind of play devil's advocate and try to cut off anybody that's watching and saying, well, I wonder if it was an alligator. So I just kind of throw those things out there so I can hear you say, no, it's not an alligator.
Well, if you want a little bit of a picture of it, the first part of the top part of it, if you ever shoot a horse and you've cut and you've turned the hoof over and you start cleaning the hoof out, and it's got that little small indention in the middle. I'm not a farrier, so excuse my.
Not shoot a horse. Shoot.
No, we're not shooting a horse. Shoeing a horse. When you shoe a horse, shoeing. When you turn their foot over and you start cleaning it out, and you got that little piece in the middle right there, the top part of that print was similar to that. But it wasn't a horse print. It was kind of interesting. I was out there with a buddy of mine at the time, and
more than one.
There was actually 2. There was one that had stepped across the road. It had about a 4-foot stride, and it got off into a tree line and a palmetto flat, and once it gets in the palmetto flat, you can't really find anything out there.
Look, as much as I hate to say it, a lot of people report dog man in those areas. I don't know anything about dog man. I don't care to know anything about them.
It doesn't surprise me.
But we've heard it a lot.
I think we're going to get back.
Let me get your computer back.
So are we back?
Yep, we got you twice.
Okay. So anyhow,
I've got rid of it.
Yeah, we took it out.
Oh, good. Thank you. But yeah, there's some very interesting things out there, and I just think we're here at about another 15 minutes, and just wanted to kind of touch base on a few things. There's no reason to shoot anything at 200 yards. Really, no reason to shoot anything at 100 yards, unless you're actually going to eat it, and it's just not professional as far as I'm concerned. It's reckless, and you never can tell what people are doing, especially these days and time. People are way over medicated, and way over medicated,
especially in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. And you never can tell. So it's just best practice to, and if you want to learn, and I'm gonna tell you, and that's another thing. None of them is going to leave the woods to follow you to your home in the suburbs. I promise you. That's some delusional talk. That's just.
We have heard that.
I know. I've heard it many times. They ain't following you. They ain't following you to your house in the suburbs. They're not following you down in downtown Lakeland like I heard one. That's just silly. It's just not going to take place. Their job is to cover and conceal. Their job is to stay invisible, not to harass you in your apartment. Or
they don't stay invisible, though, do they? They show themselves to people when they don't have to at times. They're not frightened of showing themselves and coming up to people's properties. I mean, we do have people who are living in area, in housing areas that are getting them. Cal Gotro, for example.
Sure.
That's kind of remote, though. That's a subdivision, but it's right on the backside of
well, I can see if there's access, I could see that them coming up, especially because it's all about eating. It's been my experience that I've found that the big males, the big protectors, they eat the organ meat. That's where all the vitamins and the minerals and everything are, and they let the females and the little ones eat all the meat and stuff like that. Especially like the big elks. There's cases where these guys have found elks with their back of their skulls are caved in, and they kill those elks and they eat the organ meat out of it and they give the rest to the family and they go on about their business. And especially those are the ones that are up there in like up there in the Canadian border in Washington and everything, they drink that volcanic water up there that's high minerals. There's a Bigfoot channel that I listen to a bunch of them. There's a handful of them that I really liked because I can pretty much tell when somebody's trying to be genuine about their experiences. And
if you want to mention someone's channel, man, go ahead. We're not in competition with anybody.
Well, I mean, this one in particular, I don't want to sit here for the next 10 minutes trying to figure out which one it is, but if you look at the Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio, the picture of them, they're no neck and they got that crowned head and they're very big and large. Those are the ones that are in like Alaska, and up in Canada. They're the ones that they're massive. They're all massive to a certain degree, but you're talking about muscular, where they've got these arms that are in these legs that are huge. Because they walk up and down mountains all day long, and And then I really wanted, and I really wanted to say, this is the newest one that I found. And this guy is really calm. He's got a lot of experience. You go on his YouTube channel. It's Sasquatch, Randy Bryson.
Heard of him? I've seen some of his stuff.
He's a Lakota Indian and French. He's a Canadian, is what he is. But he is on his channel. No, but I have seen two on his videos where he was walking and he'd start to pan and you could see one get parallel with a tree. And then I sent you a picture of one earlier where when he sees them,
that was his.
When he sees them, he zooms in on them, or then he'll say, "I seen something. There's something moving up there," and then that's usually when he tells you that, because he's not actually hunting them. He's just being a part of the earth. I think he's got a lot of knowledge. He's got a lot of understanding. I'm going to do some more reading and listening to some of his work, because I think if we go I think if we go in the woods, wherever it's at, with the intention of bitterness and angry and hate and I just want to kill something, well, they sense that stuff.
You say that. I don't think that's a lot of people. A lot of people in the South that grew up with hunting culture, I think they were taught pretty much what you were taught. You got to eat it, fine. Doesn't, take it down.
Sure.
But I don't think there are a lot. I think there may be some good old boys that get, a little tipsy and go out there and just shoot. There are those people, but I think for the most part, I don't think there's a ton of people out there like that doing that. And to kind of step back for a second, because you mentioned, about them not being in town. I understand what you're saying there. A lady sent me a picture of sometime last year, and it looked like a bush to me, but these things can look like the bushes. Sure. So I didn't, I was looking at it and I asked her where it was. She said, well, I got it. It was off of 3rd and Main between Napa and Wendy's in the bushes.
Okay.
I look. Okay. So I get what you're saying there, and not saying that there maybe it was, but this is around New Orleans. So.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of swamp in New Orleans. There's a lot of swamp in Louisiana. You know that for sure. There's a lot of swamp there. They're not scared to be wet. They live in it. So that's how they stay. That's how they stay alive. That's why some of the ones in the mountains, they stay high in 15,000 feet on the mountaintop up there, because you're not going to go out there and hang out.
Well, look, while we got a few minutes, let me ask you, do you plan on researching? Do you plan on putting any skin in it at all?
Absolutely. I mean, I still work for a living. I've already retired once, and I like to work because I like to stay busy. And I'm so I mean, if yes, I do plan on doing more. Every time I go out to the woods to go hiking or camping, I'm always very mindful. I always do my part, and try to communicate a positive, saying, hey, I'm here. I'm sharing this space with you today. And I respect that, not saying I don't carry a gun, because I do. I carry a pistol, but I don't brandish it. Only because
that's not really for them, though, is it?
It's not for them. It's for hogs, really.
Or somebody else.
Yeah, that's I allude to that. It's the reason why I don't hunt the rich loan management areas, because the idiots out there that shoot in the bushes. The bushes move and they start shooting, and I think that's very reckless and dangerous. And there's a lot of alcohol consumption that goes on out there also, while they have guns in their hands. And I'm not opposed to drinking, but not with a gun in my hand. But
I've been messaging with a man. I think we're going to get him on the show. His nephew shot him, blew his knee off with a 30-06 rifle because he was just walking through the bushes. They were hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So
it happens.
Yeah, and I mean, he young kid, and that comes down to teaching. You know, like you said earlier, some of it is fear. You know,
Sure.
I think if you have a real fearful sensibility, you probably shouldn't be out there to begin with, unless you're trying to get over it somehow. But even then, I don't think you should have a hunting rifle with you. Those are just my estimations. Yeah, those are just my opinions on the whole thing. So, can we expect to find any of your work anywhere? Are you going to put it out there? You're just going to do it for yourself?
You know, I'm a pretty private person. You know, I'll share it where I can. I get laughed at a lot because, you know, people just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, and a lot of the people that are in my area doing the Bigfoot thing, they won't talk to me because a lot of times I call them out on their silliness. You know, if I'm okay with you being out there and all the other good stuff, but you know, when your credibility is going down the tubes and it's becoming entertainment and you're trying to entertain people, I don't have a lot of time for that. You know, I find entertainment messing with my dog. I'm not going to listen to somebody rattling something off online about a Bigfoot they may or may not have seen.
Yeah, well, this can be an entertaining subject. It is. I think it's
it is to a certain degree.
How you present it. If you're presenting it
to a certain degree,
if you're presenting it as that,
there's people that can't get out. I do understand that there's people that can't get out they can't get out in the woods, and you know, and more power to you. You know, just I would say listen to what they're actually saying, and don't believe everything that you actually see, because a lot of people, they may be telling the truth. There's a large aspect of it. People are telling the truth, but they like to embellish because they want their story to stick out. You know, my story don't stick out. I mean, he broke a tree off and slammed it on the ground, and I walked off. There's no drama in that. I told him when I was in the camp, I'm not going anywhere. And other than having an abnormal hoot owl sound after right at dark time, it wasn't a normal hoot owl. It was a little different. Other than that, I was 10 feet from the river the whole night, and I slept in a hammock, and my dog slept underneath me, and we didn't have a problem. I heard 2 bobcats fighting at about 4 o'clock in the morning in the rain. Other than that, I didn't hear anything. But you know, just be careful who you listen to, and there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of great people. I think Carrie and Daniela here is doing a fantastic job at educating people, and I think there's a lot of channels out there that attempt, but I also realize that not everybody has the time to go trouncing off through the woods because they got to work for a living. You know, people got to work. I got to work. I work still. You know, and if I was financially independent, you know, I'd have my girlfriend bring me food out there, you know, once a week. I mean, I'd stay out there for a month at a time.
Right.
You know, but I just don't have I'm not in a place where I can do that. But I'll share my stuff. You know, I put it on, I do a little bit of Facebook on that, but you know, I probably share it with folks like yourself and people that listen and that are actually going to take it serious.
Well, here, Daniela, myself, Brad, Jackie, we're more hopeful that people will just take it seriously than anything. I think
it's a subject to be taken serious. It's a real thing. I have no doubt in my mind. It is absolutely factual. Yeah. However, I don't think they're all bad. I really don't. I really don't think they're all bad.
I think for the most part, they're just not going to mess with you. They may they may sit and watch you all night.
Sure.
Maybe. And I think it's all situational. I think it depends. Maybe your demeanor has a lot to do with that.
If you have an aggressive dog, if you take a dog and he's aggressive, it's subject to escalate a situation too. I've heard that a couple of different times where their dogs, you know, the dogs, Les Brown said it really well. or not Les Brown, Les Stroud. Les Stroud said it really well. Do not take a dog in the woods unless you can call it off and it immediately turns back around and comes back to you. If you got a dog that don't listen, is subject to die. And that's your stupidity, not the dog's. That's your stupidity because you didn't train the animal and he went out there and got himself killed by a Sasquatch because he's going to eat him. I mean, that's just the way it's the way it is. You know, that's the way I feel about that. If you're going to take a dog with you, be sure that he listens, she listens, whatever.
I think that's good advice, regardless if there's Sasquatch around or not. There's so many other things.
Absolutely. You know, especially around here, there's a lot of people ride horses around here. So, and they're real assy about, well, your dog is not on a leash and your dog don't listen. And it's a bulldog and whatever. And like, my dog listens better than your kid. I guarantee you. And, but that's just the way people are. And,
my kid better listen. They're grown and you'll probably beat me up right now. So
well, we got a minute left. I want to thank every one of you for listening, and these two fine individuals here doing a great job on the show and educating people. And let's keep an open mind and be willing to understand and know that there's something to learn from it. There's something to learn from Carrie, from Daniela, anybody that's here, whether you agree with them or not, whether you're with me or not. There's something to learn from everybody. I think as a society, we need to get back and start getting back and, instead of communicating on this, let's shake hands and be humans again.
Yeah, compassion. I think compassion
Absolutely.
for each other is a little bit more.
Love
needed.
thy neighbor as yourself.
Sure, especially in this subject. Because look, Danielle and I hear a lot of things. We hear a lot, and we take it all as information.
Sure.
As this is what this person experienced. It's at least the way they remember it happening, whether it happened exactly that way or not.
So, but the rest really is just opinion, isn't it? Everything you've said is just opinion, and that's why we have to keep grounded with this subject, because it's so easy to say things and people then to repeat it, and then it becomes something when it might not be. So that's the fine line we try and kind of stay on. Is there's only so much you can give away, isn't there, and say. There's only so much we can tell people, because we really don't know the traits of these animals and what all creatures, whatever they are, and what they do. But it's just fascinating to hear other people's points of view on it, and opinions based on their experiences. So it's all goes into the pot.
Sure. It's I mean, I love to hear them, and it's interesting. I love to hear the personality and the behaviors, and I really I'm an analyst, so I analyze all that stuff because that's part of it's part of what I do. And it's the human dynamic is amazing, whether we agree with each other or not. It's a pretty dynamic situation, and I just let's get back to nature if we can. If you really want to get back, take your shoes off and ground yourself at 528 megahertz on the ground like they are. You'd be amazed all that anxiety. You'd be amazed what you can feel and learn and listen and hear when you're out there.
Well, I think you're right about people. And once you become, if you do anything of note in the subject, and if you become a trusted voice, then you become influential. So it's important that you're careful about how you present information, because we just don't know enough about them to really push anything out there factual, other than that they're out there, and to look out for that. But there's a certain responsibility, I think, if you get to be a trusted voice in the subject, that you're not just being careless with someone else's life. And
sure,
that no other way to say that than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
People decide for themselves either way, but there's a lot of information that gets put out there and asserted as factual. This is what this is, and it can't be anything else. And that's
we don't know.
You don't know. People things can get people hurt.
As the trainer told me about 15 years ago, Sean, you're such a concrete thinker. you need to be a little flexible.
Well, I'm not at all.
Hey, it's we have to work on ourselves every day. Let's that's at the end of the day, your first hour that you crack your eyes up, you need to work on you. Not I think
I need to eat. That's what I need to do. First hour.
Coffee and water is my first thing, and reading.
There you go. Well, look, Sean, we've made it to the end of our hour, man. Really appreciate you coming on, talking about your experiences and your opinions. They're as valuable as any other, and we appreciate you very much. You're welcome back anytime. Might see if I can't get a hold of old Randy. See if I can get him on the show.
That would be. I think if he would talk about it and the connection and the culture and the connection to the earth and to the people, and
it'd be great
as they are.
Yeah, I really think it would.
I think people would have a little different perspective on and he'll flat out tell you there's some that are angry and mad, but there's a reason why they're angry and mad. But for the most part, they're curious. They're curious, and they just want to. They just want to observe, and they just want to live like we do, and like I said, I think that would be a absolute great person to have on the show.
I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna work on. I'm gonna message him, see what he says. Yeah, Daniela, you got anything coming up?
Yeah, I've got the Encounter Hub tomorrow night. If anyone wants to join, it's not recorded. It doesn't go live on Facebook, on YouTube, or anything. We just sit and we talk with people with encounters. Fred from Alaska is going to be there tomorrow night. A couple of more people. They're getting good. They're getting interesting. So, and the week after is going to be specifically for anyone who's having any paranormal, Bigfoot encounters, even alien or visitations. I've got someone who's going to be on next week who wants to connect with people who are experiencing that sort of thing. There's a lot of information coming out that people don't want to come out with online because it does sound quite crazy, but they're experiencing it. So it's a good place to come and share it and maybe feel a bit better for, offloading a little bit with other people who are experiencing the same thing. So
it's a magnificent thing that you're doing there, because for one, it's selfless. It's not out there for everyone to see. This is for those people that have had experiences that just don't want to go out in public and talk about it, but still get with some like-minded people and have a discussion. So I think it's just awesome that you're doing that. My hat is definitely off to you. And that's tomorrow
night. That'll be 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. Central. But like I say, send me an email if you want a link, because there's only so many people we can fit in there. Right. You don't want really 10 people. It's too much. But every week's getting better, and next week will be good as well. So, but I'll give a shout out next week for that anyway.
Awesome. We'll be here on this channel Friday night, 9:00 p.m. Central for the late show. Not exactly sure who we're going to have just yet, but I'm working on a few. And we'll hope to see you guys then. Thanks again, Sean, for showing up. We'll see you guys hopefully Friday. Y'all take care and stay warm.
See you later.